Hey guys, I'm going to be telling you 3 things that happen or 3 things that take place once you start to bet on yourself. So what exactly is betting on yourself? Well, to me, betting on yourself is not exactly knowing the outcome, not exactly knowing all the steps of the process, but trusting yourself and trusting in God enough to be like, I have the abilities to do this. I have the faith. I have the works. God is working with me. And I know that I'm going to take this leap of faith. I don't know the outcome. I don't know how this is going to turn out. But I trust myself enough. I love myself enough to bet on myself, right? And to see how far I can go. So these are 3 things that happen when you bet on yourself. And in 2023, more than ever before, and it's not just because it's a new year, honestly. You can start today whenever you hear this. But more than ever before, we need to bet on ourselves. We need to be able to say, I've done this. I've completed this before. God has got me through this circumstance. Let's see how far I can go on my faith. Let's see what I'm willing to do to show my ability, to see what I'm willing to do to show my faith in God. So the first step to betting on yourself, or the 3 things you do when you bet on yourself. So the first step, and then the thing that you do that goes with it. So the first step to betting on yourself is realizing your abilities, realizing that you're worth something, and also realizing that you serve an able God. And that's the first step. And then what goes with it, what comes with realizing that, is confidence. And it's not just any type of confidence, but godly boldness. So for a lot of people, we have identity crises and we really don't know who we are. We really don't know all that we're capable of. And I remember I was telling one of my teachers a story about a coworker that was really bothering me. And she was like, just, file a complaint or tell the manager. And she was just giving me, insights on things to do. And she just kept telling me, she kept saying, you don't have any clue what type of power you hold. Like, you hold so much power. And if you realize it, once you realize the power you hold, other people will have no other choice but to realize that power and listen to you. Right. And it's not in any authoritative way or anything like that, but in a way you are speaking with authority over your life, over your surroundings, speaking in authority over your peace. Right. And so she was basically just telling me that I hold so much power and that I shouldn't just because somebody's older than me, or just because somebody, and this is for somebody, just because somebody's older than you, or just because somebody is placed in a higher positioning than you, doesn't mean that they have power over you. Maybe in the world that's what it means, but we're not in the world. We're here for God. And when God gives you the authority, when God puts your feet in a room, best believe he wants you to be there. He needs you to be there. And he expects you to come with confidence and authority. You have the authority because God lives within you. And God is the highest authoritative figure ever. And so once we realize the power we hold, once we realize how the power in our tongue, once we realize that we don't have to cuss, we don't have to be violent, we don't have to do too much to let our point be across, we hold so much power and we hold so much godly confidence, right? And again, not power in the power that the world brings. It's power in the power that God brings. God brings power to bring peace. The world brings power to bring judgment, condemnation, violence, manipulation. That's not the type of power that God gives us, right? And God gives us the boldness to be able to walk in faith, knowing that he's already completed everything that we've asked for in prayer. So the first step to betting on yourself, and what comes with betting on yourself, is understanding the power you hold and understanding that the God you serve will supply every need according to his riches and glory. And if it's in God's will for you to do something, if it's in God's will for you to be in a certain position or place, best believe he will get you there. But God is not a genie in a bottle, right? He can definitely work on his own. But the thing is, that's the whole thing I love about God, is that Jesus Christ, our God, he loves to work in relationship. He likes two can make one. He loves that. He loves working with us. He loves, challenging us and testing us and forming that father-daughter or father-son bond and relationship with us, right? So although God got it and he can cover the whole entire thing for you, depending on what the situation is, God definitely wants to test you and see, can you walk while he lets go of your hand for a second? How bold can you be? How bold can you be knowing that he has your back every single time? Okay, so just making sure that, we trust God, and trusting God. Let me give you 3 tips on how to do this, on how to be confident and know your power. Check in with God. There's a reason why he makes prayer readily available to us, right? Prayer is simply a discussion with God. Continue to ask him to search your heart posture and to build your character. You're going to be put through tests. You're going to be put through things that are uncomfortable, but you need to continue to ask him for help, right? And again, we have to remember that this is all for the glory of God. And at the end of the day, the glory and the victory, the vengeance is his, right? So again, we can't be doing this from a place of pride and ego and wanting to big up ourselves. God is at the forefront always, and this has to be for his glory. And best believe that he will always supply your needs and your heart's desires if it aligns with his will. So that's the first step, is learning how to have confidence in God. The second step to betting on yourself is using your resources and knowing that you have more than enough, right? And with using your resources and knowing that you have more than enough, God will supply you more than you need, an abundant overflow. And on top of that, God will bless you, and God will acknowledge the fact that you're grateful, that you have gratitude, and that you're able to do with little. And when God sees that you're able to do with little, he will put you in charge of a lot. And I mean that, right? And I'll give a testimony about that. I'll do story times on how God has shown up for me, because I know a lot of people hear it, right? They hear it, but they don't really believe it. And I have so many testimonies. I have so many stories that I can tell about how God showed up for me. He's shown up for me every single time too. So yeah, we need to use what we have available. And especially with myself, I find that I'm always like, I don't have enough, or I don't have this and this and this and this needed to do what it is that I need to do. And I find myself complaining or saying, God, give me more. God, put me in position to buy this and get that, because we're so blinded by what we think or what the world tells us that we need, that we totally lose sight of what God has already placed in our hands. And an example can be, because I do this arts and talks, I do art, right? And I'm just like, God, I want new art supplies. I want to experiment with new art supplies. And the other day I was cleaning out my area, my desk area. And I have an abundance. I'm not even talking about more than enough or just enough. I have an abundance of art supplies. I have an abundance of things. Some art supplies that are brand new, I haven't even touched them or used them yet, right? And I had to catch myself because I was being so ungrateful and I was asking God for more, but everything I needed was right there. And I know that saying is so cliche. I know people say that saying is corny, but it's so true. It's like we're begging and begging for something that's right at our feet, right? And God says, when you knock, the door will be open for you. When you ask, it will be given to you. When you search, you will find. And he means that. That is the absolute truth. We're not looking. And when we are looking, we're not looking in the right places. We're not looking in godly places. Right? And so in my case, I have more than enough. I have an abundance of things. I was just not looking in the right places. But I know that in other cases, people have barely anything and they have to work with what they have. But if that's what it means, work with what you have. And trust me, when you continue to work with what you have, by the time that thing is done or finished or you don't have any more of it, God has already established an abundance over your life. When God sees that he can give us a little, or he can give us just 2 things and tell us to work with it, when God sees that we can take a little and multiply it, he will multiply it in 7-fold and 10-fold. God doesn't play with us. He just wants to test you. He just wants to put something at your forefront to see how you will work with it, right? And I had to catch myself because I was being ungrateful, because I was being gluttony and greedy. I had more than enough. And God has already supplied me with the talent. So whether I have a pencil and pen, whether I just have a pencil crayon, whether I have 1 tube of paint, I can create anything because the talent is in my DNA. The artistry is in my genes. God is within me. And if he says I can do something, I can do it, right? And that's why all three of these connect together, all three of these steps, right? So when you bet on yourself, you're able to use the resources that you have. You're able to use what you have been given and work with it without complaining, without looking at the next person's sheet and saying, oh, why don't I have this? Or why don't I have that? Just being content in every season and just being able to be content with what you have and knowing that what you have is more than enough. And knowing that if you need more, God already knows what you need before you ask for it. And then half the time, we're not even asking for it. We're not even asking for the right things. So that's the second step, is being content in every season, being content with what you have. And when you bet on yourself and God sees that, hey, this is a risk taker, this is somebody who has crazy faith, like out of this world faith, like amusement park faith, like they're ready to do anything and everything, and their faith is crazy because they know the type of God they serve. That's honoring God. You're honoring God by using what He's given you. And by that, He will multiply it. And I am telling you, God will completely blow your mind with the things He places in your hands. When God sees that you're actually doing something, when God sees that you're trying, when God sees that you're definitely involved, when God sees that you're 100% in, you're not just 1 foot in and 1 foot out, when God sees that you're there, oh, He's going to show up every single time. He's going to do it better than you can ever expect. And He's going to do better than the last time, the other last time. He's just going to be there. He's going to show up, right? But God needs you to show up for Him to show out. He needs you to. So that's the second step, is using the resources we have and being content in every season, knowing that if God can trust us with a little and we can do with that, if we can plant that seed, the parable of the seeds, if we can plant that seed, I think it was the parable of this servants, or parable of the manager. It was the parable where he gave 1 10, he gave 1 5, and he gave one, like only 1 coin or seed or something. And 2 of them multiply it, and 1 of them didn't. 1 of them hid it in the ground instead of investing it. And he said, I can't trust you with a little, so I'm not trusting you at all, right? And so I'm sorry, I'm butchering that a little bit, but I love that parable because God needs to be able to trust us with, if God can't trust us with $2, how can He trust us with 20? How can He trust us with 200? How can He trust us with 2,000? Right? So it's just the principle of being able to do with a little, because we know that God is a God of abundance. Like, if you see the things that God has made, why can't God do so much more for you? Right? We need to stop asking why and start asking why not. And the last step, when you bet on yourself, the last step to betting on yourself, is trusting the process. And when you trust the process, God completes it. So the last step is probably the hardest step for me. Like, I feel like I find my way around the other 2 steps, but the last step is definitely like the hardest for me, because it's hard to trust in things you can't see. It's hard to trust in things how can you trust in something that's never been done before? How can you believe in something that's never been done before? And all these questions pop up and all the fear pops up, but we need to understand that we serve an amazing and able God, a faithful God. Our God is crazy. He will do crazy things. Like, you have no clue. Like, that man loves to experiment. Sorry, he's not even a man. God loves to experiment, I'm telling you. And He goes crazy with it. And He uses the most unexpected people who people say will never go anywhere, will never be anything, will be stuck in their ways forever. God breaks those chains. And He uses people we would never expect to do it too, because He shows that even the Gentiles are allowed. God is not a God of favoritism. He doesn't discriminate. He just wants you to come as you are. He just yearns to have a conversation with you. So the third step is trusting the process. It doesn't look good in the beginning because you're just starting off. It doesn't look good in the middle process, especially with this art. Like, as I'm painting this, and I'm literally telling you this, like, in my head, I'm like, oh, how is this going to turn out? Oh, are people going to stick around to watch and see how it turns out? I hope it turns out good. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the middle of my art. I don't know where it's going to go, right? But then when I'm there adding the little details and highlights, I'm like, oh my God. Oh God, You didn't just put this type of talent in my DNA. You didn't just bless me with this. Like, how was I able to do this? And if we're not able to trust ourselves, this goes right back to the first step. If we're not able to trust our process, how is anybody else going to do it? That's why people say it all starts with you. You need to be your first supporter. You need to be your first fan. You need to be your first purchase. You need to be the first everything. Invest in yourself. Bet on yourself. Just like when God sees you bet on yourself, he adds things to it. People will see you bet on yourself and be like, they have crazy confidence. They gotta be good. We need to be able to trust the process and understand that, yes, things don't look good right now. Yes, things looks a little scrappy, but this is one chapter of our life, and this isn't the whole book. This is one season. This isn't our whole year. God isn't done with you yet. You need to trust the process. Oh, I haven't gotten a sale in a year. Just you wait, because the next year you're going to blow up and you're not even going to be able to handle the amount of sales you have. I haven't been approved for a house in a year. I haven't had good credit score in a year. Just you wait. Because that apartment you're trying to get approved for, you're not going to get approved for that. You're going to be approved for a house instead. Like, God will blow you up, but he's trying to see if you're going to be able to appreciate it. God can't give me, what do I want? God can't give me a car right now because I won't be able to appreciate it. I won't be able to manage it. I probably won't even be able to pay for it. Like, God can't give me exactly what I desire right now because I will ruin it. And again, like I say all the time, that which is a blessing will become a curse because we don't know how to maintain it. So quit thinking about all the desires and the finish line because it's already finished in the spirit and God's already finished it, right? Trying to see how you handle the little mistakes. He's trying to see how you handle the little inconveniences. He's trying to see how you handle that first. Because maybe a group of people might come out and say that their order got shattered. But you have the resilience and you have the experience in order to handle that with professionalism and with care. So we need to remember that God is just testing us. Like, all of this is just mini tests to see if we're able to handle the big problems that happen in our life. We need to understand that God is just trying to see where we're at. And remember, it all starts with God, but it's up to us to make the decision. That's when it all starts with you. If you can't trust yourself, trust in God first and see how things move around. But we need to remember that he is the creator and the helper of all things. And when we don't trust in him, when we don't take our promise to him immediately, that's when things start to fall. That's when things don't work out anymore. Bet on yourself, but bet on your God because he's a good God. He's a good God, a good Father. He's the perfect circle all around. Bet on yourself 2023. Bet on yourself and see how the 2023 is the year of victory. So bet on yourself and see how things turn out for you. You would be surprised. Because victory will be ours, but the ultimate victory belongs to God. And God's not a stingy God.